Ferrari's F40 is regarded as one of the most iconic cars ever made, and somehow it overshadows its anniversary successor, the F50, despite this being a much rarer car. Just 349 F50s were ever made, as opposed to 1,315 F40s, and this is worth about twice as much, which means we're looking at a £3 million car. While the F40 did indeed arrive exactly 40 years after the first Ferrari badge car was completed in 1947, the F50 jumped the gun by a couple of years, with production beginning in 1995. Not that a couple of years really matter when you start to soak up the details of a car created to give its lucky owner as much a sensation of driving a Grand Prix car on the roads as they possibly could. It's got the same 65-degree V12 block that powered the Grand Prix cars of Alain Prost to 5 wins, Nigel Mansell to 1 back in 1990. The same Grand Prix car that quite amazingly was entrusted to me in a drag race against the F50, driven by some bloke called Jeremy Clarkson in an epic Top Gear tale. As with the F1 car, you have a carbon composite monocoque in the middle, with the engine bolted directly to the back of the chassis and the gearbox behind that. Not, however, the flappy paddle robotised manual that Ferrari were the first to introduce to Grand Prix racing a year earlier, but instead a classic 6-speed gated manual. Perfect. The engine has been stretched from 3.5 to 4.7 litres, still naturally aspirated and pumping out a wailing 520 horsepower. 40 horsepower more than the F40, which comes with a muffled sound and lagging power delivery of its turbos. Despite being just over 100 kilograms heavier than the F40, that extra power propels the F50 to 62 a couple of tenths quicker at just 3.9 seconds, and to a top speed 1 mile an hour faster at 202 miles an hour, depending on, of course, on whose figures you believe. Whilst not able to reach the dizzy heights of 14,000 revs that the F1 car have, 8,500 revs wailing away just inches behind your ear is an experience to be adored. The F50's composite body was styled by Pininfarina, more for efficiency than beauty, which brought some criticism. But this was never supposed to be a luxury grand tourer. The interior is sparse. There's no power steering, no ABS, no traction control, and nor should there be for the full Formula One driving experience. And this actual F50 is being offered for sale by Furlonger on the brand new Carhuna platform, which is connecting the world's car community to make buying and selling cars fast, easy and fun. Carhuna leads the way in online car trading. Start bidding, buying and selling in a Carhuna auction or browse through thousands of classifieds. Simon Furlonger has been dealing with Ferrari since the early 90s and set up his own eponymous service and restoration business in Ashford in 2006, along with sales director Matt Honeysett, specialising in Ferraris, Lamborghinis and Bugattis. And it was Matt who kindly volunteered to sit alongside me when they allowed me to take the F50 for a twirl. Calm down now, it's all right, man. I think we'll have to cruise along in 5th gear in order they can hear us on the microphones.
I think so.
So let's start first with, why do you think the F40 is still regarded as a better car than the F50?
I think when the F50 was launched, it wasn't that well received by the press. The F40 was such an electric car to follow, the way it felt on the road. And they had to do a lot. They were adamant they were going to run the 641 engine in the F50.
That's
and
magical.
They had so much to do to keep it, in emissions and everything. They end up stifling it so much. So I think
this doesn't sound stifled.
Well, no. So this car has its original exhaust with it. But we've just fitted a GT1 exhaust. So now the Formula One engine breathes, it sounds as a Formula One engine.
That's why it sounds so fantastic.
And I think the car is what it probably should have been. And if people now drove this F50 and drove an F40, I think, know, a lot of people would rather the F50, the manual gearbox, the V12, the roof off. You know, it makes a difference, I think.
There was some criticism of the styling at launch as well. Has that affected them? It's still an odd-looking dude, isn't it? It's not
I mean, the point in the middle to try and, you know, encapsulate the Formula One nose maybe wasn't to everyone's taste. It looked quite weighty at the back, but I think it's aged really well. Maybe that's my opinion. But, you know, I think the car looks, side profile, I think it's one of the prettiest cars pen, the way it flows through. You know, and I think they're now coming to a point that a lot of people, it's only 349, a lot of people now are looking at them and saying, actually, what a great car to have in my collection, you know.
Have you had many through your hands?
I think since we've been going 2007, we've probably had 20 cars, I would say.
Oh, really?
50s,
You're quite an F50 expert. You're quite an F50 expert.
Well, there's always better experts, maybe. Hey? But we certainly service a lot of them. We've sold quite a few.
Talking of service, are there any Achilles heels? Any problems with F50s you have to look out for?
Pretty reliable car. I think the main Achilles heel is the dashboard, which a lot of people have spoken about. You know, we'd actually offer a conversion now to LCD rather than the original kind of light bulb.
But what about your classic? Don't you lose your classic A if you do that?
Not with a dash, no, but obviously you do need the standard exhaust for the classic A.
So this isn't the classic A exhaust?
Definitely not, but it's far better.
Well, you've got that in the workshop, you can put back on.
We can put it on Tiff, yeah.
What about colours? What colours do they come in?
So predominantly they're all red, but there are quite a few yellow. I believe 30 odd cars in yellow, a few silver, and then the really rare cars are black. A couple of black cars out there.
How many black ones were there then?
I actually don't know the exact number of how many black cars there are, but it's a handful.
And mileage, of course, always affects the price, as is anything.
Yeah, I mean, a low mileage car will command a much stronger price than a high mileage car. This is a car's 25,000 miles, so it'd be considered to have used quite a bit, but only 2 owners, so you know the car's really been loved and looked after.
So what is the price range then for the entry level and to the most prime example?
3.25 million up to maybe near 5 million for a car with really low mileage.
You make me feel nervous now.
But I'm sure you'll be okay too.
Lovely round steering wheel, the Ferrari logo in front of you. It's just, the dash, it's hard to read as well, those yellow numbers.
Yeah, well, you know, it's that sort of era, you know, the 90s era, the digital dash, it's all kind of that period, you know.
Mind you, who cares how many revs are on the rev counter, but all you have to do is to get down there. Whoa! It's just magical. And of course, I should know, because I actually drove a 641 Formula 1 car in my epic drag race with Jeremy. Jeremy was the F50, it was a real Top Gear special. So I was honoured by Ferrari to be allowed to drive Alain Prost's Grand Prix car. So I've actually experienced the Grand Prix car and the F50. There can't be many of us that have done that.
They definitely can't.
Have I now increased the price of this car because I've driven it, therefore I want some commission when you sell it, do you think?
I think, you know, I'm sure if you help us sell it, we'll look after you too, mate.
What about the roof panels? You never use them, or what?
So you've got a soft bag cover behind, which is splash proof you put on.
Oh, okay.
It's only limited up to about 70 kilometres an hour. But F50s have a lot of accessories. You have the flight case, the rollover hoops, a soft cover, and you also have the hard top that you physically bolt onto the car.
But you'd never bolt a roof onto your F50, would you?
Well, I mean, the idea was you sent the roof ahead with your luggage, so when you got the other end, you can put it on if it rained.
I just love this gearbox. I mean, no. The arrival of flappy paddles has ruined the world when you want to do it yourself. What about servicing things? How often do they need an engine rebuild, a gearbox rebuild?
No, I mean, that incredibly strong engine. Obviously, it started as 3.5 litres, all out to 4.7, a lot less stress now. Every year is a service, and annual service, just look through the car.
How much will that cost me then?
Well, we charge £1,500 plus VAT, so...
A bargain!
It's not, not ridiculous money.
Not everything is expensive with the Ferrari. I'm going to have a service. What brakes have we got? These steel, they're not carbon, are they?
Steel brakes. Yeah, everything's pretty simple and of that era, you know, that 90s era. And I think that's why they've become cool again. You talked about Alain Prost, the 641 Ferrari. You you know, that era now, we look back on it fondly, the last V12 Formula 1 cars, you know, and I think that's what's making the F50 such an attractive car now.
So if you're lucky enough to be looking for an F50, number 103 of 349 is on the Carhuna platform and here in Ashford at Furlonger.